Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of 5 Minutes with Gray Hair Dave. My name's Dave. I have gray hair. I have a gray beard. I wear glasses. I've even got a green shirt just like the guy in the artwork. Anyways, let's start the day out with 1972. So at the end of 71, September ish, right after Labor Day, I started high school. And that was different. But by the beginning of 72, things were starting to become more natural at high school. I had gained new friends with Matt and Chris, and Chris had been a long time friend, but Matt and Bill and Frank and a few others that, just became lifelong friends. And those are the people that you remember and you grow older with until, of course, like we talked about before, you get married or they get married. So during my high school years, things changed. You've got friends who have cars now. You've got friends who are not junior high school friends anymore. It's that the childish games are gone. You're trying to be adults. You're trying to be more like an adult. For me, in high school, both my brothers were already out of the house. Uh, Tim would have been at college probably, and Paul was already out of college working as an accountant down in Detroit and doing rather well. And so was Tim. And Tim, I think, had by that point had met Mary Lou, but maybe not, his wife. And so they're around, but they're not around as much. Maybe on the weekends or Sunday dinners, because, yeah, we still had Sunday dinners. I don't know that's something that people do anymore, Sunday dinners. I miss Sunday dinners. My gosh. The whole family would come together on Sundays because basically not much was open. There wasn't much to do. It was still a slower time. More things were becoming 7-day a week businesses, but not as many as there are today where everything's open 7 days a week. And that's the part that I miss. Everything shut down for Sundays. It was time for family and for church. Church is not something we've really talked about here on this program. I went to church when I was younger. I did. And when I got to high school age, if it wasn't the year before, I was given a choice. Go or don't go. It's up to you. My dad had slowly stepped away from the church for reasons I don't know. And I don't know if it's because of questions, concerns, or just the fact that none of the kids were around and so he didn't have to take us. Dad was really, really involved in the church when I was younger. And when my brothers were younger, he was really involved. He was a lay person at the church in the hometown that we grew up in, to where he would give sermons. I don't know if it was sermons, but he'd do Bible readings on Sunday mornings. Religion was big in Dad's life, and I believe it was pretty big in my mother's life, but I think my dad was a little more of the catalyst for that. Plus, Dad was a Mason, a Freemason, I guess you'd call him. But he was a Masonic member, and religion was very big in that organization. It was part of the organization. It was part of our lives. Now, I went to more events than my brothers went to, I believe, but I'm not sure. I don't know what they did when I was really young. But I found them interesting, and I found them fun to go to, and I made some friends who were friends when you were at those occasions. because they took kids on their weekend outings and their conventions, which if they were within the state, we'd usually go. Dad didn't like to drive much. He had to drive, 60 miles a day each day to work, both ways. I think that's how long it was, but he'd had enough driving in his life, and he didn't like it. Mom got to do a lot of the driving, but that's beside the point. What I was getting at is that religion did play a part in my life. Um, and I think most people growing up my age, baby boomers, had more religion in their life when they were younger, and a lot of them kept that up. I remember going to church on Christmas Eve with one of my girlfriends, and she didn't go to the same church that I did. Um, it was interesting. I was an Episcopalian, and I, for the life of me, can't remember what she was, but she went to a different church, and it was a different experience. I went with her and her parents, and it was nice. I remember that much. It was nice. I enjoyed it. I didn't hate it. I think part of the reason for that is that I loved her, and I was going to do whatever I needed to do to stay in good graces with her. I did learn a few things when I was young, but yeah, even though I may have goofed that up later on, that's the way that works. Anyways, that's what else was going on. Now we can get off religion. I do remember in those days uh, playing more basketball and football, but with a new group of people, you know, which was fun. Um, I still hung out with the guys in the neighborhood, but this was probably the last year that I hung out with them more than I did the friends I'd made in high school. Now, granted, some of us were all the same age in the same grade, and there were a couple who were a year or two younger than us. So they were behind us. They didn't get into high school the year we did. They got in a couple years later, and by that point, they're underclassmen. Not that you don't associate with them, but you don't pronounce it in high school. Cliques were in back then, folks. Yes, they were. They were in. You didn't know that that's what you were in, but that's what you were in. So, anyways, we'll talk more about that as the week goes along. And remember, this is still 1972. Long hair was coming in. It was always in, but it was making a bigger play in Day's life. So, remember, we're not doing because I can, I feel I must, or I have to here. We're going back to what was happening on this day. Today, for you and I, or for me at least, is March 18th, 2024. So, I looked this up today and I found this really, really cool. The number one movies at the box office. The box office, yeah, that office. The Godfather was number one in 1972. Number two was The Poseidon Adventure. I like that movie. I really did. Jeremiah Johnson, a mountain man who wishes to live a life of a hermit, becomes the unwilling object of a long vendetta by the Crow tribe and proves to be a match for their warriors. The movie Cabaret, The Getaway, The Last Tango in Paris. Here's a fun one. Fritz the Cat, The Valachi Papers, Life and Times of Judge Roy Bean. I remember seeing that one. Number 12 was The Frenzy. Number 13, The Heartbreak Kid. uh, 14, What's Up, Doc? 15, Shaft's Big Score. So, also, I went with a TV series of the day. MASH was number one. The Waltons were number two. Emergency was number three. Number four was Kung Fu. Remember that with David Carradine? Oh, man. Streets of San Francisco. Carl Malden and Michael Douglas. Oh my. 6 was The Brothers. 7 was Emmerdale Farm. 8 was Are You Being Served? 9 was the Sanford and Son. 10 was the After School Special. 11 was Maude. 12 was Banachek. 13, The Bob Newhart Show. 14, El Chavo del Ocho. 15 was The Price is Right. You all remember Saturday morning cartoons? I do. The number one in 72. The number one was Johnny Quest. Then the Bugs Bunny Roadrunner Hour. Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? H.R. Puffin Stuff. These were reruns, of course. And number 5 was Super Friends. Lidsville was number 6. Land of the Lost was number 7. Number 8 was C-Lab 2020. 2020. That's 4 years ago. Number 9 was Funky Phantom. Number 10 was Hong Kong Phooey. 11 was Inch Eye, Private Eye. 12, Tarzan, Lord of the Jungle. 12, Star Trek, the animated series. 14, Space Sentinels. And number 15 was Groovy Ghoulies. I'm going to keep on going to number 20 here. Number 16 was Flash Gordon. 17 was Pebbles and Bam Bam Show. 18, The Dastardly and Muttley in Their Flying Machines. 19, The Perils of Penelope Pitstop. And number 20, Scooby's Laugh Olympics. Some of these bring back memories for you folks. They do for me. Hey, don't forget to tell your friends. This is Gray Hair Dave. Gray Hair Dave's got a podcast called 5 Minutes with Gray Hair Dave. You can look him up online on his website, 5 Minutes with Gray Hair Dave. That's the number 5, minuteswithgrayhairdave.com. Leave me a comment. Leave me a voicemail. Tell your friends about me. The more listeners I get, the more fun we can have. Folks, it's been a pleasure talking with you today. Don't forget, if you know people who don't know what a podcast is or how to download one or use one, tell them for me, will you? You all have a great day, and we will talk again tomorrow. So, Gray Hair Dave saying bye-bye.